today we are going to talk about price action analysis with multiple time frames. As Nitesh said, we have divided the session in three days, 1 hour each, so that we can have a good hand over the same thing. Before we start, just a small disclaimer that we are not SEBI registered investment advisor. All the stocks that I would be discussing today and taken as examples are for the purpose of learning and education only. Do not consider these as a buy and a sell recommendation. Do conduct your own due diligence before taking any action or consult your investment advisor for the same. Small introduction I would like to give about my company, Marketfeds Analytics. So, Marketfeds Analytics LLP is formed with an objective of practical implementation of theoretical insights. You would find many books that you would want to read on technical analysis or any other subject as a matter of fact. But what carries more importance is how practically can you apply those theories, right? So we take care of that thing. We offer various courses on financial markets and coaching for professional courses like CFA and CMT. Our major courses are, three levels of technical analysis, your basic, intermediate, and advanced. And we even conduct mentorship program of 1 month for becoming a trader. We even teach forex trading, and we do our weekend courses through webinars, paid webinars on candlestick charting, edging with RSI, MFI, and Fibonacci, bar charts, and statistical backtesting, everything, and it goes on. Now, without further delay, let's get into today's session. So today's session is going to be on price action. We have divided it across 3 days. The first day, we are going to talk about what is your price action, what are the methods of price action analysis, your trendline breakouts, supports, and resistances. How do you find those out? What are your demand zone, supply zone? How do you get into that? How do you take your trades based on it, right? On tomorrow's day, we are going to talk about methods of analysis, wherein we'll be talking about candlestick patterns. Candlestick patterns as in the basic candlestick patterns, and then we would be going into boring candles. Then we would get into gap trading. And on day 3, we would be getting into multiple time frame analysis, importance of MTF, different frames for different types of traders. So that's the interesting part. If you're a day trader, you're a swing trader, or a positional trader, we will be telling you what kind of time frames you should be looking at from the larger time frame to the smaller time frame as you come down, and take your trades based on that. All right. So now let's start with what is price action analysis. As we heard from Nitesh into the introduction, price is everything. Bhav Bhagwan che. It's a very good saying that we have. Now, why do we say this thing, ke Bhav Bhagwan che? Markets are too big for anyone, be it a retailer, HNI, or institutes that they get into. All right. When we are trading into the markets, we need to be vigilant about a lot of factors. बहुत सारी चीजों का हमें इसमें ध्यान रखना पड़ता है. जैसे आपके fundamental factors हो गए, your geopolitical news, global news, company specific developments that are there, their business models, bulk deals, block deals. ट्रम्प ने कुछ ट्वीट कर दिया तो हमें उसका भी ध्यान रखना है. So a lot of social media handling by the people around is what we need to take care of. Based on this thing, everything, what happens when we see different news coming in, we have ebbs and flow into the market. We see new prices coming in, right? So ये सब कुछ boil down होके किस में आता है आपकी price में. So why not look at one thing and analyze that rather than getting into very, nitty-gritties of everything, right? Now, so from all of this thing, we can say that your price is a depiction of the human behavior and expectation. So आप जो सोच रहे हैं, जो किसी भी न्यूज का इम्पैक्ट आपके ऊपर आ रहा है, वो सब कुछ कहाँ जाके रिफ्लेक्ट होता है, या HNIs के पास होता है, या इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो भी सोचते हैं, उनकी जो भी फाइंडिंग्स होती है, वो सब आपकी प्राइस में रिफ्लेक्ट करती है, राइट? एंड दिस इज लाइक द बेसिक रूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स. अगर हम लोग जोड़ने जाए तो डिमांड और सप्लाई दोनों जहां मिलते हैं वहां पे एक प्राइस होता है. So something which is cheaper for one at a price X is expensive for another. So we have a buyer and a seller, right? And the force of each of these people take the price into a higher or lower zone. And that is when we form the demand and the supply zones. I will just explain you with one simple example of DLF, wherein the price moves first and the news follows later. DLF हमें पता है last year what happened with DLF. It went up in October suddenly over here. Why did this thing happen? Right? इसके बाद हमें सारी न्यूज मिली थी DLF के बारे में, that 8700 crore of an amount that they had to pay for JV with they paid that thing. Their project sales started turning better in Gurugram. The stock was trading at a 52-week low at that point in time, and suddenly everything just turned around for it, and it moved from a price of 148 to 150 to 215 in just a span of not even a month. We can see right over here, यहाँ पे इसने gap up दिया और उसके बाद सीधा यहाँ पे जाके it started consolidating again, which is like almost close to a 30% return, right? ये चीज हमें पहले ही पता होती है जब if we go here into a line chart, यहाँ पे हमें देखिए काफी सारा कंसोलिडेशन नीचे की तरफ में मिल रहा है, जहाँ पे the price is taking up a support at the bottom. Earlier यहाँ पे एक उन्होंने सपोर्ट लिया, फिर यहाँ पे लिया, फिर यहाँ पे लिया, एंड जब इन्होंने एक गैप दिया उसके बाद the prices just had to go there. एंड जब ये सब न्यूज आ रहे थे, तो ये गैप आपका हुआ है यहां से शुरू, एंड आपके न्यूज़ेस आना शुरू हुए, द पॉजिटिव न्यूज फॉर द कंपनी, राइट? So that is why we say that prices are going to move first and your news is going to follow later on after that. So basically हमारा जब हम बात करते हैं price action analysis, it is nothing but a study of price movement over a period of time, जिससे आपको पता चलता है कि earlier whatever has been the prices, be it supports, resistances, ऊपर नीचे, वो सब कहीं जाके same, history is repeating itself. And that's the very base of technical analysis too. So now what are we going to do today? Today we are going to study about methods of price action analysis. So there are 4 ways which I particularly feel are good enough for your price action analysis. First one is your trend line breakouts. So trend line breakouts, we know the 3 type of trends. For the ones who don't know, we will get into those things. We have an uptrend, downtrend, and a consolidation. So what do trend line breakouts do? They suggest us that, over a period of time, there is going to be a trend reversal that is going to happen now, right? And then the next method that we have is support resistances. So एक zone बनता है wherein people are, considering a stock expensive or cheaper. तो ये जोन से आपके डिमांड और सप्लाई जोन मिलते हैं, जिसकी वजह से कंसोलिडेशन पैटर्न्स भी बनते हैं. So we are going to study those, which is again a depiction of your price. Then we will get tomorrow into candlestick charting, where we'll do the candle patterns and the boring candles. And then we are going to study the types of gaps and how to trade those gaps, right? First thing, So what do you understand by a trend line breakout? But before we get into trend line breakout, I would like to just, explain a brief about what are trends. Okay. Trend is nothing but a direction of your price movement. And we have uptrend, downtrend, and consolidation. I will just show you some examples of that. Today we are going to use only line chart for this thing. The only reason behind me using a line chart is that line chart is constructed using the closing prices, and when I see on daily, I particularly prefer using a line chart because it's closing prices, and closing prices are your final prices for the day. आपके सेटलमेंट्स हो गए, कुछ भी हो गया, आपके दिन के जो सेंटिमेंट्स हो गए इन्वेस्टर्स के प्राइस ऊपर गया नीचे गया, इंट्राडे में इतनी सारी मोमेंटम होती है, वो सब आपकी कब जाके फाइनलाइज होती है क्लोजिंग पे. सो योर क्लोजिंग प्राइजेस आर योर, ऐसे बोलते हैं कि दे आर डिसाइडेड बाय द स्मार्ट people of the market. So that is the reason why I particularly prefer taking line chart on your daily charts, right? So we'll be using line chart today for this thing. Now, your uptrend is nothing but when your prices are moving up, right? Classic example, everybody's favorite, nothing better than a Bajaj Finance. So this is your uptrend when your prices are moving up, making higher highs and lower highs, right? Then your downtrend is when your prices are moving downwards, right? Wherein your prices are just falling. This one has been falling like a sharp knife all the time. So and then when we talk about a consolidation is when prices are trading in a range and not moving anywhere. So when we see this one, Axis Bank, we see that it's moving over here in a range, right? Not breaking it, neither going down. These are like good stocks to trade into for the reason being कि आपको पता है ये वाले स्टॉक ना ऊपर जा रहे हैं ना नीचे जा रहे हैं. So when I take a horizontal line, and so this is my support at the bottom. This is going to be my resistance. I have to do very simple. यहाँ पे आया buy करो, यहाँ पे आया sell करो. I do not have to get too much deeper into analyzing further. Right? Every time you see that it's whenever it's touching this resistance line, it's falling down from there and it's going up from here. Right? So this is your consolidation pattern. Do we have any questions about trying to understand the trends right now?
Thing as such.
All right. So I guess trends are clear to everybody how we are identifying them. Now,
Let's give them a couple of Dhwani ji, let's just give them a couple of minutes. If you guys have any questions regarding the trend, whatever Mrs. Dhwani ji explained, you can ask. Okay, is this a bar chart?
this is a line chart. Your bar chart is going to be this. This is your bar chart and this is your line chart. This is your candlestick chart and this is your dot chart. We do not use this thing because it's of no purpose. Generally, we use a line chart on a daily chart so that we have the closing prices. You can use a bar chart and a better depiction, a candlestick chart, for the only reason being that here you have fuller bodies, easier for you to see and identify. We will go deeper into candlestick charts tomorrow.
There's one more question. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Got it. We can go proceed.
Yeah. Is that good enough for this thing?
Yes,
Right.
yes. Perfect.
Okay. So now that we know that what the trends are, let's understand how do we make the trend lines. Because without making a valid trend line, we are not going to understand further into this thing, right? Now, I would just show you how to make a valid trend line, but Spider simplifies that for me, which I would just show after we have done this thing. So first important point is that for a valid trend line, you need to have 3 points. For making any line, we need 2 points, but for a valid trend line, we need one more point to validate the trend line that what we have drawn is right. Okay. So now how do we do that? Over here, I'm going to connect these lows, all right? Now what happened over here? You see that the maximum number of points are lying over here. So this is how you draw a trend line. And these trend lines also act as support and resistances at the bottom or at the top. Over here, if you see, it's always, every time the price has touched this trend line, it has moved up from there. See how the price has been taking support at the trend line and continuously moving up. Now, what do I do in this case? Simply just, this is one line where I have, this is the second point, and I buy as the prices come here. Yes, I would definitely have a late entry, but it is better to be confirmed rather than being sorry. And even if we check from here, the prices were close to 630. And over here, before the prices turned below the trend line, the prices were 760, which is definitely a good gain. Now, so let's talk about trend lines when we have to spot reversals, because trend lines are majorly used for spotting reversal of a trend from an uptrend to a downtrend. So basically, how do we call it? That is trend line breakout, which is a general term used into the industry. I would like if the audience could post in some stock specific names which you would like to discuss, so that when we are taking examples, we can take examples as per your choice as well. I would give a minute so that everybody could post in their, stock picks or anything which they would want to look into. So we can discuss accordingly.
Okay, we have a suggestion. NIIT Tech.
Okay. I would just take a minute and note down the names so we can discuss on those only further.
Sure, sure. We
Keep
are
the
getting
names
many
flowing
names
in.
over here. Okay,
All right.
first is NIIT Tech.
Hmm.
Second is Reliance. Third is Tata Global. Fourth is HPCL. Then Infosys. Concur. Okay, we are getting too many names, Dhwani ji.
I would just take randomly 10 to 12 of those. If you could just carry on and let me know, so
Okay,
that
sure.
we would have a rather interactive session with this
Perfect.
thing going ahead.
Perfect. ICICI Bank. Just Dial. Nifty 50.
All right, that's a lot of stocks.
And just one more. Let's take this Oro Pharma.
Okay.
Sorry guys, we are actually getting too many names and we don't have much time to take
Don't worry, we are gonna
but
carry it forward tomorrow. So keep your
yes,
names.
yes,
The ones who are not taken up, we will take them tomorrow. Right?
Okay, so everybody got it. Okay, Dhwani, there's
Okay,
a
great.
question
So
also coming up.
let's get down to, yeah. Tell me.
You are showing Axis Bank here. Mr. Gaurav Sega ji is asking, at what point in time will you conclude that Axis Bank is moving in a range?
So over here, if we see from, let's say it's entered over here, I can clearly see, that it's forming a range over here. Generally, what we see is that when a stock is moving at, 5% high minus low, that is considered to be a consolidation zone. So consolidation zone need not be only sideways, it can be upwards also, downwards also, anyways. But when a stock is playing in a 5% range, we say it as a sideways movement, right? And a consolidation zone. So over here, when we see this thing over, we have, multiple heads over here, multiple tops over here, right? And that's when we can say that it's moving up into a consolidation zone. And generally, this consolidation zones should be broken up within, let's say, 2 to 3 months kind of a time span. Now, over here, we got into a consolidation in, let's say, October end. So it's November, December, January, February. So it's too much of a consolidation happening. We could have a momentum anytime, but we wouldn't conclude it till the time it hasn't moved outside these lines that we have drawn. And one thing, a piece of advice which I would like to give to everybody is that never imagine patterns when they are not there. Always, have a confirmation and then, conclude that it is so and so pattern. Do not imagine where there's something not there. Right? Any other questions, Nitesh, or we could continue with the session?
There's a suggestion, I guess.
Okay.
Try ICICI Bank because there are a lot of consolidations before resuming up move.
Okay. We'll just check into it. Yeah. So this stock has always been moving in a channel formation. So we wouldn't call this, a lot of consolidations and all. It's moving in a channel formation, every time. Whenever we see it moving up over here, if I see that, this particular place, we had a trend line breakout at this place, right? So when I made a channel over here, we see it's moving into that same channel since quite some time now. It's always been like that. It's volatile and then again a channel formation, volatile and then again a channel formation. Right?
Okay.
But
I hope Apurva you got the answer. There are a couple of questions more. Should I?
Okay. Is it all
What
related
should?
to trends? We can go ahead with
Yes,
trends.
yes.
Okay.
It is related to this only. What should be the stop loss when trading consolidation pattern?
Too early for that. Let's wait. I'll answer you
And
that thing.
okay. And there's a request by Mr. Nehal Pujara. प्लीज आप हिंदी में भी बोल सकेंगे.
डेफिनेटली मैं जितना हो सकता है उतना हिंदी का कोशिश करूंगी, बट मेरा हिंदी आप को मतलब उसके ग्रामर में मत जाइएगा. मैं जितना हो सकता है उतना यूज कर सकती हूँ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
Okay, so let's move ahead then.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, Dhwani.
So, yeah. So now that we've understand trends and how to make valid trend lines, there is one feature of Spider which I would like to highlight here, which makes work easier for me, is that when you go to chart and you go to chart study, you have a feature over here of auto trend lines. All right. I prefer keeping this as the setting, auto trend line, and I restrict it to 0.05 and I make it strict. Loose may there is a margin of variation which comes, which I don't prefer. So I make it strict. With swings, what you'll have is you will have those lines of high and low. Again, it makes you assume a lot of patterns. Refrain from using that. Use just plain simple auto trend line with 0.5 and set it up. What would happen is you will start seeing these trend lines joining the highs and forming out. All right. Now, one such example, what we can see is here, Ashok Leyland. We had a trend line here, right? It just broke yesterday, closed below it, and see the fall today. Okay, and we had some other examples also, so let's check on those as well. Reliance. Wonderful. See, it was into a down, resuming into a downtrend over here. Then again, thanks to Spider, I had this trend line drawn. The next day, gap down, and from 3 consecutive days, it's been falling down. So let's say if, then we go down to lower time frames, which we are going to have in our session. Yeah. On an intraday I-30-minute chart also, I see a trend line forming at the same level. So this gives me a confirmation that my trend line is right. It's validating me. I have 1 point over here, second point over here, and the third point over here, which is validating my trend line. And it breaks down from this point with a gap down. Right now, how do we trade particularly this one? Because I'm sure everybody would be curious about this. The moment I see that it is given a gap down, now I don't know how much, to put up a stop loss at, and how do you take this trade position. So you wait, you do not enter in immediately, right? Because it's a gap down. Now, what do you see? First, let the first candle close. It's closed red. What happened to the next candle? It went green. So now there are chances that this might go and close the gap as well. So first of all, always remember, patience is the name of this game. So if you do not have patience, I would suggest start developing one. It went up, closed here, but never turned into this thing. Even if I have taken my short position at this level, I would keep my stop loss over here and then trade. And see, after that, it's been going down. So my stop loss didn't hit and I made good money on it. Now again, let's go down to Tata Global. Okay. Wow. Another place over here. Yeah. Tata Global, classical uptrend example. We are having this consolidation formation over here. Me as a person, I would still wait for this one to form into some concrete pattern. I mean, there would be a lot of assumptions going on that it's a flag over here forming, or it's a consolidation, there is some zone, there is a gap, but please do not get into it. Just wait for it. What I would suggest is just wait for this one to concretely break either this gap downside or this on the upper side, and then take a position into it. For investors, this is any given day. Just buy and forget it. Do not think about it. Right? So we saw that how the auto trend line feature is working over here. Now, so we concluded these points as well. We understood what are trends, what are the types of trends that we have, what are the trend line breakouts, what do the trend line breakouts suggest. So these are like basically reversal trades that you need to take on these. Let's get into supports and resistance zones. How do you find out these, because most of the time supports and resistance are need not necessarily to be, on the upper side or the lower side in a sideways pattern. It can be upward, downward, anything. Now, how do you decide these demand and supply zones? Okay. So basically, what is a demand zone? If I can have some input from the crowd, what do you understand by a demand zone?
I hope you guys hear.
Any inputs? What do you understand by a demand zone? Demand is what? When something is, going to be bought. So the prices are supposedly going to be moved up from there, right? And your
We have some
supply zone is, yeah, tell me.
low price of good stock,
Okay.
where another person is saying where buyers are active.
Okay,
Another is previous support where price moves up.
very nice. I was looking for that answer itself. So your
Okay.
demand zone is nothing but your support, right? And your supply zone is nothing but your resistance. But why am I terming it up as zone and not lines? Is just for the reason being that sometimes it happens that you have certain false breakouts or traps that are there into it, and that is when you need to have these zones set up, right? That at this particular zone, every time the price has moved up from here, so that's my demand zone, and at this particular price, every time my price has moved down from here, so that's my supply zone. So coming over there, the mentality of the crowd is changing for the stock. So as we had taken up axis, we can say this is particularly my supply zone and this is my demand zone. The moment my demand, my buyers will overpower my suppliers, the prices are just gonna, break upward from this thing, right? So now, I would just show you one feature of Spider which helps me in finding these zones pretty quickly. If you go to settings and chart settings, there is a feature of chart display where you have previous day high and low lines which get put up. This actually happens on an intraday chart, right? The maximum number of lines that are there over here, right? So these have been my previous highs that have been there, and these are my previous lows. So basically I can say that these are going to be my, resistance on the top. So this is one feature which helps in identifying those and taking them. Apart from that, let's look at certain examples which we had flowing in. Concord, basically, we can say that the stocks again, into a sideways from quite some time now, right? It's been at the high and not moving above it, just falling down. So basically, I can say that this is my over here from 595 to, let's say, over here 630 is basically going to be my more of a supply zone at the top, because prices are not consistently moving. We did have some falls, breakouts over here, but it never moved above it. So if I want to get a, positional trade into this one, I would just wait for it to close above this 600 level decisively and then go ahead with it. But again, when it closes above 600, I would wait as a target for this particular 635 level and then keep on trailing my stop loss. Otherwise, wouldn't get into it. We have Oro Pharma also over here again. So currently what I'm showing is basically for positional traders if you want to get into it. Day traders, definitely you can just take a overview from a daily chart, but then we will move down to a lower time frame chart for this thing. Now over here, what do we see? In Oro Pharma, this particular level at 475 has become my supply zone, right? And this on the bottom side has become my demand zone over here. Because every time you see over here, the prices went above it earlier at this point in time also, and over here also. So when it moved up, when I had a breakout over here above that 475 level, the prices went up, came down to the same level, and then again moving up, right? So this even talks about a concept which is called change in polarity. So basically, change in polarity is when your support becomes your new resistance and your resistance becomes your new support, which is over here that my resistance at 475 level became my new support for Oro Pharma on an intraday chart. We had Just Dial also. Now, if we see, Just Dial was in an uptrend over here. Not too much of an uptrend, but yeah, we can say the magnitude of the same thing was low, but it tried moving up, couldn't go much into it, and then again falling down, right? So what I would do in this particular stock is, see, there's a consolidation which has happened over here. So earlier consolidations also which have taken place, right? They also do act as your demand and supply zones, right? So over here, I can say that this consolidation over here, and then we had some consolidation over here. So this is a zone. First, we identify a zone. A zone is nothing but where the buyers and the sellers have been constantly fighting with each other. So that is my zone. Now, prices breaking above or below makes it a demand or a supply zone as to which side of the people won, right? Now, this particular one, I would just wait it out. I do not have any opinion on it currently because it is near a zone, and I would just want to see which side it's moving up. After that, take up a trade decision. Now, so for trend line breakouts, I had certain examples. One was this one. On an intraday chart, if I see, my software gave me that, from this area, there is a trend line. So breakout above this thing would take my prices further up, right? And I wouldn't get into that thing till the time over here. See, if you see on the daily chart, we can see that this has been my earlier top and the zone wherein the fight was taking place, and the prices moved down. And when broke this particular zone area of 1330, the prices just shooted up. And then again, it's come down to the same level at 1330. So how the change in polarity and everything works together, finding out the price action. Any questions flowing in to understand this thing? Because today we'll be talking more about the support resistances, the demand supply zones, how do you identify those, and taking in more and more examples on the same thing so that, we are done with one thing for sure, that we know that what are our zones and how we should play on those.
Any questions, anybody? We're giving you a couple of minutes if you have any. Can this be used to trade intraday?
Yes, absolutely. We saw it on intraday that we had, especially on intraday only, we saw that we had those demand and supply zones which were coming up with the Spider software feature of previous high and low, based on which we decide our zones, and then breaking above that, we get into a buy, and below, we get into a sell position.
Okay. The other question is, what will be the perfect timeline for trend line finding in intraday?
That will become on day 3. You'll have to stay tuned for that.
Okay. Sandeep ji, you'll have to stay tuned for it then. Next is, please use candlestick and zoom in.
Candlesticks, we have the session tomorrow. If you have any particular query on candlestick pattern with a stock, please let me know. I can answer you on that thing. Otherwise, candlesticks we'll be doing in details tomorrow.
Can you tell me about feature in Spider software?
Which feature do you want to
Which
know about?
feature, Girish ji, can you please tell me the feature you are looking for? There's one more question. The timeline, I guess, the TLV candle consider are for the highs and lows of the candles, and break of TL we consider on closing basis. We do not consider TL on closing price of candles.
Can you please repeat your question, Nitesh?
Yeah, sure. The TL candle. This is
TL
difficult
is
to.
trend line.
All right. The trend line we candle consider are for the highs and lows of the candles, and break of trend line we consider on closing basis. We do not consider trend line on closing price of candles.
Yes. So now this is a little, dependent on how you draw your trend line. Basically, so when you're taking a daily chart into consideration, I would suggest draw your trend lines joining the closing prices and not the highs and the lows. This way, what would happen? Your chances of entering into false breakouts would be lower. Do not take highs and lows into consideration and draw a trend line and trade on closing prices. This is something which does not match. So you'll always have to take into consideration the highs and the lows. Now, Spider software always has this inbuilt feature that they will take the high and the low itself and draw a trend line. But then that is when your little smart work comes into picture, where you will have to take the closing prices and draw it and get a proper, answer to it. This is just a feature which helps you, but do not rely on something completely. As a matter of fact, you cannot rely on the high and low closing also completely, because they also might give you a false breakout. So that is why we always use a room of let's say 1% from the breakout price to get into a trade position, or have multiple confirmations as well.
Can we scan consolidation breakouts?
No, we do not have any feature supposedly, Nitesh, for that thing. I mean, Nitesh would be a better person to answer on that. Consolidations
Uh,
is something that we'll have to find out on our own, because price action itself as a method of study is subjective by nature. So you cannot quantify it unless you put an indicator into it. You can put a D chain into it and you can find out. Possibly, yes.
yeah, with using technical query, we can find consolidation breakouts also.
Okay.
Uh, okay. For line chart, does log or linear chart will make a difference for trend line analysis?
When you are using a very longer time frame of a chart, yes, it would definitely make a difference. You should always use log. I mean, be it anything, just use log. Take it by the word of Bible. Always use log for it, for charts, any matter of fact.
Next is, what is multiple confirmation?
Multiple confirmations is, let's say, supposedly, first of all, we went into finding out a trend line breakout, right? Today, understood first what is a trend. So it's an uptrend or a downtrend. Always trade with the trend and not against the trend. Okay. Now again, with the trend or again against the trend would depend on you as a trader also. If you are a day trader, your time frame would go down to hourly and minutes, wherein that similar thing on a day chart could be a swing as well. So coming down to the question, multiple confirmations is, first finding out what is the trend. Then you see if it's a trend line breakout or a support or a resistance zone which is there, and a breakout from that thing. And similarly, when we will go to candlesticks tomorrow, we will understand as to, the psychology which goes behind it, and how that can also be added into analyzing your price action. So these are multiple confirmations which you should always take. Again, I repeat myself, better be, safe than being sorry.
Okay, there's one more question. Is this trend line useful for Bank Nifty and Nifty breakouts?
Trend lines are useful for any chart, as a matter of fact. I mean, not particular to any stock or any index specific thing. Trend line is what? It's just a breakout from your your range or from your trend. It's just a reversal, so it's useful for anything.
Okay, and can we scan trend line breakout in Spider?
Nitesh, you'll be better to answer. I
Yeah,
mean, I've always been toggling down and finding out mine.
yeah. Okay, we'll have that feature soon. Okay, that's all. We can move ahead, Dhwaniji.
All right. So actually, for today, we are going to discuss on these topics only, as to what have been the supports, resistances. So today we were going to talk about supports, the consolidation zones we are done, demand supply zone we are done, sloping trend lines we've done, change in polarity we did with examples. So for today, we'd put the session over here, and tomorrow you can come down to know more about how we are going to get more into finding out gap trading. So we'll be taking care of your opening gaps, your breakaway gaps, your measuring gaps, and have you have those exhaustion gaps. We always have that one place at the top we always buy, and then there's a gap down. Why does that thing happen? So we'll get into gaps tomorrow, and we will get into candlestick patterns as well. And we'll be taking up a special feature of spider in that thing. I'll just show you that thing. If you go to candles and you go to settings here, this is going to make my chart more colorful. You see some blue candles popping up? That is what we are going to discuss tomorrow, as to how these blue candles help us in taking up trades and finding out our zones again. Any questions to follow, or we can conclude the session for today over here?
Okay, there's just one more question. How can I connect to Dhwani ma'am? Okay, how can I connect to Dhwani ma'am? I have a query for her earlier webinar about divergence.
So these are my numbers, my email. You can always ping me on that and get in touch with me.
Okay. Anybody else? Do you have any questions? That's it. Thank you.
All right, guys. Then adios for today, and see you guys tomorrow at 4, where we'll discuss more further about the same thing.
Great. Thank you,
Thank
Dhwaniji.
you.
I personally learned a lot from today, such I never knew these line charts work so beautifully, and how closing price are more important than highs and lows. And I hope everyone understood the concepts of price action today, and how the price behavior matters, and how it is important to how important the trend lines are, the consolidation patterns are, and much more. So tomorrow we'll be back at 4 p.m. with Dhwani ma'am again, and learn more about price action behavior in multiple time frames. So till then, please stay tuned, and do come back tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Dhwani ji.
Thank you.